This meeting is being recorded.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Whiskey Shaman Podcast. We got a great show for you all tonight. And without further ado, let me introduce Secret Chord Distilling. How you guys going?
Pretty good, man. Doing well. How are you?
Doing good.
Awesome.
All right, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of any socials you have, and we can plug those again at the end, but any socials you guys have and anything any of the listeners might want to get a hold of.
Yeah, so we do Instagram and Facebook. I can't learn TikTok. I don't get it. So we just stay clear. So it's just at Secret Chord Distillery on both platforms, on Facebook and on Instagram.
And I don't socialize, so.
Well, that's not good.
No, that's not exactly true either.
All right, so go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, we're just a couple of fellas trying to learn how to open a distillery, trying to do all we can to become the greatest distillery in the world, right?
That's what everybody strives to be. So tell us a little bit of the backstory of what made you want to get into it, and then we can just kind of take the progression. And we're both drinking on a little bit of Eleanor from Crowded Barrel tonight, so we're going to go through that. And I know y'all guys are active in the whiskey tribe and stuff like that. So yeah, just kind of give us your little bit of backstory.
Sure. So
go ahead.
I'll start with that because it kind of started with me. There was about a year and a half when the entire world was so bored, they were looking for something to do. And I happened across something on Amazon, and it was cheap. And I said, I'm going to go for that. Little Vivo still.
Okay.
And, it's just a little podunk piece of crap. But, as they say, the whiskey fairy, the liquor fairy came around and did some things with it. And, boy, we really thought it was great. And that got me hooked. From there, this guy.
Yeah, so we've known each other for quite some time, and so we would typically start with like a Taco Tuesday, just getting together, bullshitting a little bit, and so he introduced me to it. He let me try it. He said, I've been doing this, and first off, it was just kind of shocking how good. He could make some, or not he, but he being the liquor fairy.
Hypothetically.
So it was just kind of crazy how good it was for very little experience, and for it being White Dog. I mean, I was never traditionally like a shine drinker. I've always liked whiskey, and so I was definitely willing to give things a shot. I was really just kind of blown away though, and during that time period where everything sucked, our jobs were included in that. And so we're both just kind of tired of doing things for other people. Now, granted, we still do things for other people as far as jobs are concerned, but we just kind of thought, let's just do this on our own. I mean, if you're willing to do like the back end production of it, when the time comes, I would gladly do like any of the marketing, writing out the business plan, any networking that needs to be done, community outreach type stuff. And so we just decided to go for it. And that's been a couple of years ago. So
yeah, a couple of years now.
Okay, so you started off in the shed, like, I've interviewed quite a few people on here, and that's normally how their journey starts. Just tinkering in the shed and doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
So is there a business model in place right now to where you have or working on a storefront or a production facility or anything like that?
Yes. So ideally, I mean, yes, we want to be the best distillery in the world, but to start, we're going to settle with Wichita. Our idea here is to kind of take the microbrewery scene here is pretty outstanding. We have at least a half a dozen really solid micro distilleries.
Breweries.
Microbreweries. So we kind of wanted to take that format and apply it as a distillery.
Okay.
So have a full bar, options for people who might not necessarily want to come drink Secret Chord, but at least start here on a local level where people can just come in and have it, be able to take a bottle with them as they head out. When it comes to Kansas, this is probably maybe the least friendly alcohol state in the nation. We have a pretty long-standing history with fighting against alcohol. The whole Carry Nation thing, and that's been kind of my journey, is just looking at a lot of the history, a lot of the temperance movement, and so we're pretty much just kind of pushing against that. But the laws and regulations are still very difficult. We actually would have to have a commercial lease on a building before we could even apply for a license to produce spirits. So, like I said, we're job folk people, and so we're not necessarily paycheck to paycheck, but living not enough to set a ton back for a distillery. So we've talked about doing investors and going full scale into it, but it's just there's so much money that we wouldn't have up front. So we're going to start smaller and a little bit more organic and hope to grow from there.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Because in Texas, it's pretty close to that. They want you to have a blueprint of the distillery. They want to have it. It can't be at your personal business. It's your personal house. It has to be at a business. You have to have where the mash tun is, all that stuff labeled out, ready to go. Now, you obviously don't have to put that where they put it, but at the same time, there's just so many legalities that you have to go through just to get your foot in the door. Getting the DSP is, is the easy part when it comes to all that. It's getting all the financial backing, getting all the equipment there, getting all the equipment that you specifically need for your thing. So they make it hard on you from the get-go because they don't want you into it. And so it's only the strong that survive. And there's a lot of distilleries out there that aren't surviving because their business plan wasn't the greatest from the start. So I'm glad you guys are taking it step by step and taking it easy.
Yeah, I think for both of us, in an ideal world, we'd be commercial in 6 months, but we both know that we got to have some patience and take the time, and because we also want to do it right, true to ourselves and true to who we are as creators, really. So just slapping a bunch of stuff together isn't good enough either. We want things to be in the right order, and we want it. I guess what I'm saying is we're willing to take our time on it. I think being patient is important. Now, I think I will say that for both of us, that those first 3 or 4 conversations, we were just, in 3 years we're gonna be, we're gonna have it set in 3 years. But then I think once we hired an attorney, number one, and actually started understanding the legalities and what goes into it, and started talking about licensing and that kind of stuff, I think we both realized, okay, slow your roll.
Take a step back.
Can't say that it hurts that in the same regard of all the waiting and everything, that it allows us a chance to potentially age anything that the liquor fairy happens to drop off at our doorstep too. So there's added benefits, but it's got to be organic, and we don't want to do something just to do something. We want our farm names are going to be attached to it. We want to have pride in it.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And that's really cool because, there's a lot of people that just, and especially here in Texas, and I don't mean to talk about this, but this is the demographic that I know, but you'll see this distillery pop up out of nowhere and like, oh, I know the face of that person. They're a whiskey blender or whatever, but like the financial backing's huge. They're in every total line like overnight, but then you look at the back and it's MGP, and you're like, okay, well that's fine. Maybe they're doing some cool blending stuff with it. No, it's 2-year-old MGP. What the hell? Okay, so they're really not doing anything to it, and all their money is in the packaging, the labeling, saying it's Texas, all this stuff. And the fact that you guys are able to be like, hey, if we're going to put our name on this, it has to be worthwhile. That means a lot, because obviously there's a bunch of people that don't care about that. So
yeah, there's nothing wrong with sourcing whiskey, sourcing your however you source it.
Nope.
I got no problem with that whatsoever. Whatever it takes, for anybody out there that's trying to do it, but just be open about it. And say what you're doing.
Look at what Crowded Barrel's doing with some of that stuff. It's like you mentioned with the blending, like you can take that and make something truly badass out of it.
Absolutely.
They're proving that. We actually, you can talk about Texas as much as you want.
Yeah, we love the Texas whiskey scene.
Yeah,
we love it. I've visited a few distilleries down there. We pay attention to all the social media. Bill's been to Balcones. I've been to Andalusia and Crowded Barrel, and actually we met at Andalusia.
Yes, exactly.
This time last year.
Yeah, exactly. And I tell you what, that was a great day. Like, I've been to Andalusia multiple times. And Moose is a crazy bastard, and I love him to death. But like, he's all over the place. And that tour, the whole experience was probably one of the best distillery experiences I've had, because like we got to blend some whiskey that nobody's ever seen and nobody ever will see. And they were just like, here you go, take this priceless whiskey and make a blend out of it. Whatever. Yeah, it was crazy. It was really crazy, and the fact that Jesse was there, that makes it a little easier, because anytime I could see that dude, he's doing some amazing stuff, as you guys probably already know. And being that you're trying to start a distillery and get the ground rules on, he is a pinnacle in the fact of like, hey, these recipes are like this, and it makes this kind of profile. He's kind of paving the way for craft guys too, because you talk to Alan Bishop and all these other guys, and they're watching Jesse's show on their lunch break, and they're at a commercial distillery, so it's like, it means something. So that to me is super cool, that you guys are you're into it enough to where, you're vested in it, but you're not so into it to where it's like, okay, we got to do it by the end of the month. That's good.
Right. Yeah. And by the way, I meant to tell you this. So you had Moose, Jesse, and Alan on in your last 3 interviews.
Yep.
And then you bring us 2 chumps on.
Hey, don't
make me laugh.
No, it's but this is what I want. I want the people who are experienced, and I also want the people who are getting into it, because like, if you've listened to my podcast at all, the listeners and viewers alike, I talk about everything, all the ins and outs of it, and I want to learn about this budding community that you guys are trying to lift up and make a distillery from scratch. And I just did it's going to release this weekend, so I'm going to give you all a sneak peek. By the time this is out, it'll be out already, so it's not a big deal. I interviewed Justin Whaley, Alan Bishop's apprentice, and I talked to him about what it's like to be an apprentice, what it's like to be like know nothing, go into the distillery and like get your ass kicked by moving barrels and dumping 800 gallons of mash all over the floor before it's done, and like screwing up everything and learning from that and making good whiskey.
Yeah.
I see that. So I love having people from all gamuts on, because that's kind of what I want the listeners to know. It's not just, yes, in the end, it's about what's in the glass, and you're making a good product. That's great. But it's also the journey, the whole journey from start to finish, no matter if you're doing this at your house in your basement or if you're working for Jim Beam. I don't care. I'll have you on. We'll sit here and talk, and we'll go from there. So that to me is you guys are just as important as anybody else that's going to be on here. So,
well, thanks, man.
No problem.
We need that validation.
No. I mean, so tell us a little bit about if you can. I know there's some legality issues with stuff, but tell me a little bit about like kind of your business model. What are you planning on making if you have a list of things, and kind of what take me through a visual of like kind of what the distillery lineup will be.
Absolutely. So our real intent is to have just two mainline sort of brand names, which would just be Secret Chord whiskey and our Secret Chord Intemperance. Our straight line Secret Chord, it's just corn and wheat. That's what we have here in Kansas. It's our terroir, or whatever,
Awesome.
We have corn and wheat here. So what are we going to use to make our whiskey with? Corn and wheat. So our mash bill, it's a little, we like to use red corn, but there ain't no red corn in Kansas.
We only grow it for cows.
Yeah, we only grow corn to make gas and feed cattle. That's what it's here for. So if there's anybody in Kansas that's watching right now or wants and grows red corn or wants to grow red corn, man, we'd love to hear from you.
Let us know, please.
But that's essentially what that main line is. And then our intemperance, it's actually 4 grains. It's got barley and rye in it as well. And that came out of just a crazy experiment that somebody did. Can't say who. But beyond that, we'd like to make a vodka. I think I believe it with all of my heart we can make a really good vodka that people like. I also like to make, I make the cellos. I make limoncello, limoncello, and orangecello. And those would be kind of our dessert lines. And that's kind of our lineup,
Dabbled in gin a little bit and brandy.
Yep, dabbled in gin, apple brandy. My mom owns an apple orchard, so I can get all the apples I want.
There you go.
So that's great.
There you go.
But we're creators, Randall. I have to be creative. I have to be doing something different. I came from food service. I was a chef for a while. So being able to just mix and match and do things differently, or different things, I should say. We're going to have that too. That's going to be mixed in there. That's going to be out here and there. But
yeah, I think if there's anything that we could say about like Crowded Barrel and be, that's kind of the inspiration behind things as well. I mean, as far as like what we aim to do, as far as the experimentation and everything like that, we just like messing around and seeing what works, what doesn't. I mean, honestly, it'll all help in the growth of the end, but I mean, I think it's important to kind of just keep things fresh anyway. Shoot, I had another thought that I was gonna say. That's gone though, so I don't remember.
No, it's fine because I mean, I'm actually gonna have Kyle from Crowded Barrel on here in a little bit. If he won't return my email, and then he did, and he was like, "Oh, the day you want to do it, I'm out of town," and I'm like, "Of course, the one day I want to do it, you're out of town." Anyway, but like what they're doing with the different barrel types and the finishing and all of that stuff with a basic MGP, is amazing, and the fact that they're making their own stuff as well. And I've got to try 3 different iterations of the single mom, and they're progressively getting better. The first one was good, the second one was better, and this last one was pretty awesome. Of course, I only had a sample. I wasn't able to pick up a bottle for some freaking reason. I've been on their Patreon for like 6 years, but I couldn't get a bottle. Whatever. But
probably because I bought it first.
Oh, maybe. But yeah, I mean, and that's a good business plan to model off of, because they have a marketing strategy like no other. And so being able to kind of not piggyback, but like, I feel like not to copy.
Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Yeah.
That's what I was trying to say. And not that you guys are trying to imitate them or anything, but following in those guidelines that, like, hey, let's try this and see if it works. Let's dump it in an Amberana barrel. Let's try and see if it tastes good. Now, I will tell you from personal experience, Amberana will get real weird real fast. So just be aware of that. But
be aware of that. Okay.
It is very nice in small doses. But even if you have like a little domino of it, man, it'll mess up this bottle right there pretty fast. Give it about half a day. That's all it needs. Ooh. So,
dang.
But anyway, no, that's super cool that y'all are going that route.
Sorry, I'm just gonna jump in there. We've talked just a minute ago about the Texas whiskey scene and how people are doing things there. I don't feel like it's that way in Kansas, and that's frustrating. There aren't very many distilleries here to begin with.
Right.
Most of the ones that are here are very nice people.
Right.
We went to one distillery, and I just told the guy, I'll come and work for free. And he said, no, you can't. I can't afford the insurance. Okay, that doesn't make sense, but whatever.
He's not making any money,
evidently, yeah.
Well, yeah. I don't think they're actually, I don't know if they're in business anymore.
They may not even be in business.
Okay.
But nonetheless, what I'm getting to is, like, we would love to foster that sort of whiskey community for Kansas. It's not going to be like it is in Texas. I know that, because Kansas is very different when it comes to alcohol laws in general. But we would love to foster that sort of mentality where people are working together. I mean, we would love to be able to buy beers from breweries around here and turn them into whiskey and partner in that way. There are a lot of wineries actually around here. We would love to partner with them to make our brandies. Yep. I don't see that happening, and I think it's a shame. I really do.
Yeah, that is. And it kind of goes back to the whole, you mentioned it a little earlier, the terroir, of trying to use local stuff that's around you, being, i.e. the breweries. I know that they might get their barley from somewhere else, but like, it's their beer grown, made locally, that you're then distilling and making it into something, or using their barrels to age your whiskey in, or whatever. Like, being able to do that and create a community. Now, I don't know how many, like, I don't know of offhand, which I don't know a lot of distilleries in the Midwest, especially, but like, how many distilleries are actually in Kansas that I would even know? I'm trying to think.
There would be one. There's one that you may have heard of, Boot Hill Distillery in Dodge City.
I mean, barely. Barely.
That's the one. Kansas City has quite a few distilleries, but you've heard of J. Riger.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard of them, but
maybe Holiday.
They're mostly though on the Missouri side.
Right.
They're not on the Kansas side.
Right.
But there are some really cool distilleries in Kansas City, but Kansas City is like its own thing, like Dallas is to Texas. Dallas is its own state,
Exactly.
And that's the same way for Kansas City. But for the rest of us, I don't know, there's maybe a half a dozen distilleries in the rest of Kansas, and only one of them, Boot Hill, is something that you may have heard of.
Wow.
Wow. I can tell you just from market research, there are 2 within 140 miles of us.
Yeah.
So then that one would be Boot Hill, and then there's the Emporia at Trolley House. But
yeah,
it's kind of a small maker as well. But
yeah.
So, I mean, that kind of gives you the corner on the market, which is great. But also, is there a reason there's not so many distilleries around there? Is there not a populace for it, to thrive? And I guess that's just going to have to be market research and stuff like that. But like, if the breweries are thriving and all of that's going well, then the distilleries should go. If you're marketing it well, and it sounds like you're going to be, if you're marketing it well and you're also creating a good product. Obviously, if you're making a shit product, people aren't going to want to buy it, or they'll buy it one time and they're like, I'm never going back there again. There's a reason I go to Andalusia all the time, is because they make kick-ass stuff. And they kick me some stuff under the table as well. So, that's a perks of being over there. But yeah, I mean, if you can find your little niche and just kind of go from there, I think it's going to turn into something huge. I really do.
we definitely have a whiskey scene here. I mean, there are a couple of bars that open with basically, primary focus being on their whiskey selection, just kind of more, what do they call the barrels that not everybody, or the bottles not everybody can get.
You mean barrel picks?
Not barrel picks, but the phrase is escaping me. But anyways, like they'll be able to get bottles that a lot of other places here won't. There's definitely the bad thing is we don't get as much here, and so we have a horrible secondary market whiskey community in town that will try to turn around and sell a bottle of Blanton's for $250.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm sure that probably exists everywhere, but we have people here. I'm part of multiple whiskey groups. We've done tastings with a few different people from around town that we've never met before, and there's a market for it. We have 400,000 people or something. I don't even remember in the surrounding area.
Well, 400,000 city proper.
Yeah.
So for us, that's a good market for us.
Absolutely.
And we'll be happy with that. There was, or maybe still is, who knows, a distillery here in Wichita. I'm going to tell you, I didn't know they really existed until I started looking at this as a business. And then it was like, oh, I didn't even know they were here. So that goes back to the marketing thing.
Yeah,
and that's what I think Bill is great at. That's what Bill's doing so well, is even call it cheating or not, I don't know. It feels like cheating sometimes. Even before we have product on the shelves, we're talking about whiskey. We're talking about our community. We're talking about, we're just getting our name. The more people that hear our name when the time comes, the better that'll be for us.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And so, speaking of name, where did you come up with Secret Chord? Where did that name come from?
Honestly, it's a combination of things. So, we met each other at church, and so we've gone to church with each other for
8 years.
8 years, 9 years, something like that. And I don't know what the deal was but one particular week, and this was after we had already decided to try to do this thing, and we needed a name. And Leonard Cohen, is it Leonard Cohen? Leonard Cohen, that Hallelujah song. I heard it like 12 times in 1 week. And the very first line of the song is, I heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord. And then like that same week, we were at church, and that passage that talks about David playing the lyre to draw out the demons, it came up in service, and it's just like, all right, secret just kind of seems to be speaking to me at the moment. And so
the Spirit is speaking to us.
The Spirit spoke to us.
I love that. That. No, that's awesome. And it's such a cool name because like it makes people think about it, and that's what you want when you have a name. Like there's a lot of people that just do their last name, and Distilling or whatever. And if your name isn't catchy enough to where like, oh, I know that. And obviously, everybody's going to the different bottles designs and stuff like that because, they think they're catchy. But as you well know, looking at the Eleanor that you have and the Eleanor that I have, it's like you got to pick the glass that's going to be the right glass. There's a distillery in South Carolina, Old Riley Distillery, and they have this very ornate bottle with a twisted neck, and it's very beautiful. And I'm like, yeah, that's great for right now, unless you have 8 million pallets of it back there. Like, they're not going to be able to keep up, because I know of people here locally in my town that do jams and jellies. If you know, you know. They have had to change bottle designs like 5 different times because they can't get the glass. And so that's another thing. Like, you don't want a bottle like this on the shelf because they're going to put it like that, and you're not going to be able to read the label or anything like that. You want it facing this way, but they're not. That's too much real estate. So, finding a bottle that is easy to procure and also stands out in a liquor store or whatever, even if you're thinking of going to a liquor store, and that's these things that people don't have the talks about. Like, we haven't talked about the glass. We haven't talked about the corks that go in the glass. We haven't talked about label design. All of that stuff has to be pre-approved before you even get started. So it's like, oh my God.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. So tell me some of the struggles.
Yeah, it's been conversations for sure. And we have an idea of like what we want to go with for glass. But it breaks down to that. And then it's like, maybe we could get it, but do we want to get it for $4 a bottle after you're buying lower number of cases? I mean, we're something small, so we're not going to be looking to buy.
We're not going to buy 40,000 bottles at a time. We're not going to do that.
But between that and barrels, barrels are also kind of a bitch to procure. But I mean, even now, like, not that we would, be looking for a barrel or anything like that. But it's all very small. Like, we wouldn't have. It would take us a while to fill a barrel, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
And but if that be the case, the space also. Yeah. So I mean, I guess I could bring up another talking point is just how how one could age something that doesn't have a barrel.
Yeah. So everybody knows that using chips and staves doesn't do the same thing that a barrel does.
No, it doesn't.
We all know that. However, there are some things you can do with chips and staves that can be helpful, and we're playing with that. We're trying to sort that out. That's not ultimately, we don't want that to be our profile. Is all those guys use chips and staves? But what can we do to get bottles on the shelf sooner and of course, still be quality?
Right.
And I'll honestly say I learned a lot from Jesse about using staves, and he's open about it. I'm open. I think everybody really that uses that method is open about it. But I mean, is it valid or is it not valid? I don't really know, but I'm not afraid to try it. And maybe, I mean, that's kind of our thing is we want to be able to put White Dog new make on the shelf. We want to be able to put 6 month on the shelf, and we want to be able to put 2 year and then 4 year on the shelf.
Right.
And, and like you said, with the labeling and everything being approved, like those things have to be approved, like, can we call it whiskey if it's aged 6 months in something with extra chips or extra staves? I don't know.
Legality wise, yes, which is kind of, whatever. But also look into, I know that Bad Motivator Barrels. I'm gonna have Chris on next. I'm gonna have Chris on next week. I was originally trying to get Ben Quady on, but as you well know, he passed away. So that was kind of difficult. But I know that Badmo's making a barrel that's a little under 2 gallons. So doing something like that to where you can get the oak influence, and I don't know how your heat profile is in Kansas, but in Texas, it makes a lot of difference, because if you have a wood barrel, let's say it's 2 gallons, you have a wood barrel, it's going to evaporate so much and so fast that within a year, you're not going to have anything left. And if it is, it's going to be so over oaked, you're going to think you're drinking Garrison. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you know, around here, we get 3 months of pretty well blazing heat. You know, upper 90s, low 100s for about 3 months. The rest of the time, it's actually pretty mild. It's okay. The rest of the time, we used to get really cold. We don't anymore, you know, because
whatever the
conspiracy
reason.
theories. But
don't say it. Don't you say it.
I ain't saying nothing.
But no, we got. I think this is a good environment for aging long term.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
We definitely have the fluctuation.
Yeah, we have the fluctuation that helps. You know, it's not always hot. It's not always cold and damp. We kind of get both. So
we can't Kansas kind of carries the reputation. We have like 18 seasons.
Yeah.
You know, we get like first spring, you know, first summer, second or third winter.
Yeah.
Back to it's kind of crazy the way the weather is around here, but yeah, that is something we've definitely thought of. We you know, have worked with a person and currently trying to fill a 5-gallon barrel, and it's a used rye barrel. And so we're curious, first off, to see how that is. I mean, they paid us, so we're
they paid the liquor fairy.
Yeah, we immediately interned left under our pillow, and so yeah, I'm very curious because it'll be our first go with that, and it'll be, you know, shed kept, and so it will experience every single one of those weather changes. I'm very curious to see how it goes here, because there's not a lot of people that we can even ask around here to be like, hey, so how is that? Like, how does that work? Because even the ones that we went and visited in Kansas City are all in climate controlled areas. So
yeah, and that to me is why you have to reach out to communities outside of yourself, like you guys are doing, like with Jesse and all these other outlets, because there's a lot of information out there. And if the thing from 2020 that'll never go away has taught us anything, it's that people are doing the research on stuff now, and like you can learn pretty much anything you want to learn out there. And so it's just getting those facts and like, hey, what is going to happen in my region, and what are the comparable things that could happen? And that's why, like Jesse, Bearded and Board, all these people that are doing these things in different climates, like New Zealand is a way different climate than we have, obviously. So, I mean, they're in freaking winter right now. I don't know how you can have winter anyway, long story. But yeah, I mean, so it's cool to see that y'all are stepping out and trying to do other things, but I also understand the apprehensiveness of like just going balls to the wall with it, because like it's a lot, and like you would almost have to quit your day jobs, which everybody wants to quit their dreaded day job. I mean, don't get me wrong, we all want to do that, but at the same time, like getting investors, getting money, then you got to worry about, am I making enough? Can I feed my family? Can I do, you know, like, is this worth it in the long run? And that's the things that you guys are having to toil through right now, which is really great, because obviously you're still going. So that means there's some drive and initiative there, but also there's the passion behind it, and it's slowly becoming a thing, which obviously I've heard about you guys for a while, just from all the funky posts that y'all are doing and stuff. So, you know.
Yeah.
So
we like to have fun with it, and I've fallen in love with it. Just genuinely not, not in a passing fad kind of way. Like, I look forward to every experience, every experiment, every failure. When I fail, I hate it in the moment, but gosh, I learned so much from it. And then when you take that failure and turn it around into a success, and I've just fallen in love with the whole process. I've fallen in love with the community. The people are all great that I've encountered so far. That I've encountered yourself, everybody that I've sought advice from and asked questions of, hey, what did I do wrong here, or what should I have done differently, or those kind of things. I think it's lovely. That's the best way I can put it. It's lovely.
And I'd say, worst case scenario, we never have to pay for whiskey again in our lives. So.
Absolutely. There you go. If you can make product that you'll drink, hey, there you go. At least you did that much. If nobody buys it, you got pallets in the back ready to go. That's
Christmas gifts forever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know, man. It's like, and I've said this multiple times on this podcast, and like, people need to get out of their own way a little bit. And I feel like that's what you guys are doing. You're getting out of your own way and being like, let's let this happen, like you said, organically. And it'll be what it's going to be. And it might take a little longer, or it might, end up costing us more money in the long run or whatever. But at least it's something that you can say at the end of the night, when you go to bed, you can say, hey, we made a stride today, or we didn't make a stride today. You can have ownership of whatever you're doing pushing forward. And I think that is very commendable. Like I've said multiple times with this podcast, I'm not trying to do it to impress anybody or anything. I'm doing it for myself and the millions of listeners. No, I'm joking. I'm not, we're not at that yet. But at the same time, like, I want to be able to go back to this episode right now in a year and be like, wow, I was so naive back then. Like, right now I'm blowing up. I want to be able to do that. And in order to do that, you have to get out of your own way. And I feel like y'all are nailing that. So to caveat that, what are some of the hypothetical projects that y'all are working on right now that are kind of kicking the fires up? I know you said something about a 4-grain and a heavy wheat bourbon. What else do you have other than the vodka and stuff like that? Are you working on any pet projects?
Yeah. So, like, right now, there's a real heavy focus on understanding, hint, how to make a good rye whiskey. That is primarily rye, and we're talking like 70% rye, 20-ish% corn, and whatever's left of barley. Just how do you make? Yeah. How do you make that? How do you make that so that it's palatable and tasty and has all of the markers of a good rye whiskey that that our friends and family already enjoy, but has our own flavor and our own spin on it. The vodka is kind of, I mentioned that, but we're really trying to understand how to make a vodka that is clean but has flavor.
Yep.
I don't like a vodka that is just neutral spirit.
Yep.
You might as well buy a bottle of Everclear and proof it down.
Yep.
Cut it in half with this, with water. I want a vodka that tastes good as a vodka, but that you can put in mixed drinks, because that's what vodka is really for, I think.
Right. Absolutely.
In America anyway.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we're really trying to understand how to do that. We we definitely got to figure out how to make orange cello and limoncello in mass scale. Like, it's real easy right now to make it with a couple dozen lemons or a couple of oranges and a bottle of high proof spirits. I can do that all day long. I can go and buy Everclear and the fruit and make that happen. I can do that, but how do I do that times 1,000?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
That's trying to understand what can I use that is commercially available that I don't have to put a lot of work into to get that essence, that the essence of oils, the essential oil, whatever comes out of the peels, the zest, that kind of thing. What else have you got in the pipe?
So I will say it's nothing that we immediately look at, but one of the things that kind of inspired me, we took this distillery trip over to Kansas City back in March, and now if I get a shout out, it's like my favorite one was West Bottoms, but
West Bottoms all the way.
But man, one thing that I was just actually really inspired by was the fact that they got a Kansas City actual designation of whiskey.
Okay.
Saying that, I will say, like, it involves actually, what is it, a little bit of, not brandy, it's a
sherry.
Sherry. A little bit of sherry. So it's like, it almost seems more like a cocktail than a whiskey designation, but
right.
Regardless, it's delicious. But I would love to create something, and I thought maybe, looking at like the Holy Trinity of Kansas grain and coming up with some sort of mash bill that we could start as a Wichita whiskey or a
absolutely. So what are the three grains? What are the three grains? There's corn, wheat, and what else?
Probably looking at soy would be our third biggest one here. And so it's like it would take. I think that would be something that's gonna have to take a lot of experimentation. I don't think we've really ever messed around with soy.
No, not at all.
But
this is a surprise to me. I'm only just hearing this for the first time.
And it's like, this is something. Well, I talked to you about doing a designation or like attempting.
Okay, so now I got to learn how to make beer with soy. Randall, how do you like that?
But it can be done. And
no, something that we did talk about. Those are the grains around here, but we also have, guess what? Sunflowers.
Oh yeah.
And we actually tried a sunflower whiskey once, and it wasn't bad. It was pretty good, and that's something I would like to get into, where corn, wheat, and then the sunflowers and the sunflower seed. It's very different than using a grain, but I know it can happen. I know it can be done, and that's something I would love to see for Secret Chord in the future. Is that yeah.
Because sunflowers in themselves have a flavor, but then if you toast them or lightly char them, break them up a little bit, they present a totally different flavor. It's almost umami in the fact that it's like it almost gets a little briny, I would say, not like Isla Scotchy, but like it gets a little funk on it, which is what some people want. We've talked ad nauseum about how bourbon tastes like bourbon. It's always the same three notes that you get. The variance is 10 to 15% maybe. So if you can put something in there, and that's why Corsair and all these other distilleries are using like quinoa and all these other grains that are just going way crazy, is because they're trying to do different things to make it not bourbon. Which bourbon in itself, great, right? But like if you've had one bourbon, you've had quite a few bourbons. I tell everybody, don't buy Blanton's, buy this. Why are you hunting this bottle that you can't get? When you can get this, it's from the same distillery, same mash bill, same everything. So anyway, rant over.
It's all bottle trade. Who does produce blends? Is it Buffalo Trace?
Buffalo Trace. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Buffalo
See.
Trace. Yep. And so
Yeah.
that's the thing. Buffalo Trace produces what? 20% of the whiskey market out there. You know, we're talking
Yeah.
all the Weller line now.
Yeah.
You know, and to me, the baseline Buffalo Trace is good. Don't get me wrong, but Benchmark, look at all these other ones that they procured over the years. They're just as good. And if I can get a bottle of Benchmark foolproof for like $20, I'm going to go for that over the Weller 107, which I know Weller's a weeded and it's a little different, but like, come on, if I can get it for $20, it's well worth it. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those ones that chases that tag, and I don't know if you guys are, and if you are, that's no big deal. But like, you know, like I have nice whiskeys, and that's great. But at the same time, I have whiskeys that I'm like, I don't care if you have this, have this bottle. I don't care. Like I can go get another one, and it's amazing. Evan Williams Bottle and Bond, amazing whiskey. Early times bottle. I'm a bottle and bond kind of guy. I don't know why, because like the 100 proof is right on the line of what I like. I like a little higher than 100 proof, but it holds up in a cocktail. It does all that. So like, I think having a good bourbon is one of those things.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. Sorry, I ran into
Very much so. You know, so chasing labels, I mean, I got that several years ago, and you can't get this around here. It's
really?
not here. I was in a different state, and I saw that, and I grabbed it, and I wouldn't let the guys open it because I was being really stingy with it, and we finally did, and you know, and so great. But that, you know, that I chase labels, but I know that there is good whiskey that is not. It doesn't have to be expensive, you know, as long as it's not, you know, ditch,
Yeah.
you know, down in the
Absolutely.
ditch. But,
yeah, we're not drinking Kesslers, okay? So
yeah.
You know, we're not mixing vodka with our whiskey here. But like I can tell you from personal experience, you know, I've had whiskeys that are well over $10,000. You know, and then I've had whiskeys that are well over $10. And like
Right.
you know, don't get me wrong. Once you hear that, hey, this whiskey costs $10,000, you're like, ooh. But after you get over the hype, you're like, really? So I think another thing, and this is going back to you guys, throwing it back to you guys, having a fair product for a fair price is something that like the market is changing. Like, okay, how do I say it? The whiskey connoisseur is falling back a little bit because we're going into a sort of recession. Whatever. I don't care. I'm not political. I don't care. Leave me alone. We're going into a recession on whiskey buying. So it's all these big dogs that are coming in and buying everybody's whiskey collection. Please buy mine. 150K, you can have all my whiskey. I don't care. Anyway, but at the same time, like there's these people out there that are getting I lost my train of thought. It's gone. Shit.
Well, maybe I can help you out because I mean that's part of our business model is our secret Chord, which is our main brand. That should be around a $45, $50 bottle. You know, I mean that's where it should be at. The intemperance, it takes a little more work, it takes a little more material. You know, that's going to be a $65 bottle, probably. You know, somewhere around there, depending on what the market looks like.
Absolutely.
You know, so we want to keep our product at a price point that it's accessible for anybody, really, but also not a turnoff. Does that make sense? Because you know, we could offer our whiskey. Maybe I shouldn't say this on public television. Wait, this isn't public television.
Yeah, it's not public.
Anyways,
It's private.
we could sell our bottles for a little bit less and make it a budget whiskey. But do we want to do that? That's not what our brand is. It's not a budget whiskey. It's a craft whiskey. And guess what? It's a craft whiskey, and I think craft whiskey makers deserve to get paid for what they do.
Absolutely.
And I don't. If you're asking $150 for a bottle, you'd better have some damn good whiskey in there. But if you're asking $60 for a bottle, okay, I can get behind that. And if it's not good, I don't feel like I got cheated. If it's great, I feel like I won a prize. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, creating a fair product, a good product for a fair price, is what the world was kind of made on. Like we're just out here, everybody's trying to make a dollar, and you're trying to present a good product. And if you can do that, yeah. What do we get?
He's trying to find something.
I'm trying to find the intemperance with the Cabernet.
Oh, buddy, I don't know where that went. I think you drank it all.
Oh, wow.
I don't know.
Sorry, we're slowing the program down.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. So what is the difference between your base model and your intemperance? So what is the difference between those two?
Well, the biggest difference is the inclusion of barley and rye. So if our regular secret chord is, let's just say, something like 70-30, then our intemperance is going to be more like 51-30, 10-15-5, something like that.
Right.
And we bring the barley forward and drop the wheat back.
Okay.
So it's corn, barley, wheat, and rye.
Okay.
So
that makes sense. That makes sense, because the wheat's going to present as a little musty, a little grainy, whereas the wheat would kind of tamp it down and give it a little bit of softness, and then the rye is just there for a little bit of spice and maybe some baking spice and stuff like that. So that's really interesting to me. So let me see where we're at.
To make sure you end up with some of that.
So
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, the notes that I notice with intemperance is, there's that corn sweetness up front,
right?
And that's intended. I want that there, but there's that kind of, it's very smooth. Everybody says, oh, it's smooth, but it's pretty drinkable. You can take a higher proof of it and drink and not feel like you're on fire.
Right.
But that rye adds like in the combination, I feel like we get like a little bit of black pepper almost. Okay. So it's that weird thing of like when you add salt to caramel.
Oh, absolutely.
How it makes the caramel taste so much better. Mm-hmm. To me, adding that little bit of black pepper, that little bit of that just tiny bit of spice to the sweetness makes the sweetness just come alive, and not in a way that makes you feel like you're eating a bowl of cornflakes, frosted cornflakes, but in a way that's like, this is what sweet should be, if that makes sense.
Right. It does. It makes total sense. And see, the issue that people get with like high corn content is corn is basically there for ethanol. That's all it's really there for. And it has an innate sweetness, a little bit of corniness. If you get too high in it, it gets to like buttered popcorn, stuff like that. Yeah. So like, you need to have these adjunct grains And I would tell you guys, and I'm not trying to invert in your business at all. I don't want to be a partner unless you want me to be. Whatever, it's fine. But
We'll talk
like doing some like caramel malts or some chocolate malts, just to kind of throw a little bit of something in there, because like from the distilleries that I've had, which is in the millions, no, it's quite a few. Like when they throw a caramel malt or a chocolate malt or something in there, it totally changes the entire profile of the thing. And it might be 1%, you know what I mean? And it changes everything. So you could do like a temperance 1, 2, and 3 where you just changed one of the adjunct grains, you know, a little bit. And like you could just change up so many things and like put them in small 5-gallon releases to where you get 20, 30 bottles out of it. And it's like, once it's gone, it's gone. Sorry, guys. You know, it should have been here. Or, you know, or you have some club that's like, hey, this is first come, first serve. Take your bottle. And then that's where, you know, a distillery in itself starts to procure like profit is from single barrel picks and stuff like that. And I know you guys are looking into that in the future as well, because like with all of that, you want to make a base product that can go out to store and stuff like that. And that's great. But it's like doing these one-offs, to me, the one-offs are my jam. Like when Andalusia came out with their Revenant Oak in a rum barrel, I was there. When they did the Revenant Oak in a brandy barrel, I was there. You know, like there's so many things that like, and Balcones, I mean, they're probably on the top of the deck when it comes to finishing stuff, because they do the Madeira, they do like all of these things, like the red corn, blue corn, like all these different corn varietals and stuff like that. And changing one grain in that whole subject changes the entire profile of the thing. And that's one of the cool things I think that y'all are trying to do. And I'm not trying to put myself in y'all's place, but like you're trying to do that. You're trying to be just that much more different than anybody else. And I applaud you guys for that. That's awesome.
Thank you. I was being very coy about our mash bill, but it's hilarious that you say the chocolate malts and those things. Actually, we have a smoked wheat. Our intemperance does have smoked wheat and chocolate wheat and chocolate rye. So we're using those specifically as our ryes or as our adjuncts. And I'm actually looking at my notes if you can't tell.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Do what you gotta do.
Yeah. So, it's got that in it, you know, and like I say, I was being really coy, but
no. And I'm not trying to put you guys on the spot at all.
No.
I want you to be like you're saying, we're all being organic with all this. And that's the cool thing is you guys are innovating in your own way. And like Kansas, once you guys get up and going, Kansas is going to know what hit them. Seriously, like if you're putting this shit out, like come on, man, come on, seriously, like y'all need to maybe you need to think about getting some investors, because I think we're fixing to hit pretty hard. So.
Well, I mean, if you know any, I mean, we're not going to shut it down.
Yeah. No, if you know any, send them our way. But thank you, man.
It's we're grateful for that.
Yes.
No, it's all good. It's all good. All right, so we're gonna wrap it up right now. And if you guys want to again post link any sort of socials you guys have. I know you don't have a whole lot because you guys are under the radar, but at the same time, if y'all want to grow, this is the time to do it, because I don't have many sources out there, but the ones I do have are pretty big. So just go ahead and hit me with those, and then we'll close out, and y'all stay on because I want to talk to you after, of course.
Yeah, of course. Cool. So at Secret Chord Distillery on Instagram and Facebook, we'll keep doing stupid shit to post on the internet, or I'll keep doing stupid shit. He doesn't really get on camera, but you know, I'm not above putting it out there. We live our lives, and we'll put a little taste of it out there because it is ultimately a very good life that I think that we both live. And
absolutely.
So Secret Chord Distillery, just look it up.
That's awesome.
Secret Chord Distillery. Yep.
All right, so I had to get a little bit more just to cheers you guys. But until next time, you guys keep your spirits up.